Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in to Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. I'm Sheryl White, and I'll be your lead co-host for today. And I'm delighted to have with me today our co-host, Dr. Loretta Howard. Dr. Loretta, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we are looking forward to having a continued conversation on essential leadership and bench strength development during turbulent times. This is the part two of the series that Dr. Dre led us through last week. And with us to have this conversation is Coach Iris Savage Dargan. And Coach Iris is actually out of the Houston, Texas area. I'm sure she services probably worldwide, but based in Houston, and the owner of DMP Coaching. Coach Iris, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and before we just dive into our topic for today, Coach Loretta, you want us to start off maybe with one of our audience questions? We try to do one at the beginning of the first segment and then one at the second. And after that, Coach Iris will ask you to introduce yourself and we'll dive into today's topic. So,
Okay.
question number one that we have here is, what does your organization do to support bench strength and how is it funded? So you want to start us off, Coach Loretta?
I certainly will. With us being small business owners, entrepreneurs, so we're actually for profit. But one of the things I've noticed when we hire people, we try to look at the potential that they have, not just for that position, but what other potential they might have. And sometimes based on performance reviews, observations, and various assessments, we find that maybe they have a skill set where we can help them to get additional training. We'll call people in or we'll send them to additional trainings. So to try to grow them, really find out in our performance review, we ask them, so where do you see yourself? 3 years, 5 years, seven. We do the odd numbers, but we ask them that. And just to see what they might be interested in doing. And in our budget, our annual budget, we always set aside funds to make sure that we can send individuals to training who are really interested in moving forward. And we've had one young lady, she's been with us 5 years. She started off as a part-time caregiver, then she went full-time. She's now a team lead. And we're going to send her to another training for administrators. So she would be someone if we would have to leave or go somewhere, we can trust her to make sure that everything is running well. And her colleagues respect her too. So that's kind of one of the things that we do.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And I'll share for our organizations, we have, well, about 800 plus employees. And so most of our grants do include indirect funds, which we are able to use for training and staff development. So we're able to offer internal staff development conferences, staff development days, and we have a Supervisors Institute, Leadership Academy, and different ways of developing our internal bench strength. We also have fabulous external speakers and coaches who we engage, one of which is Coach Iris. We've had her come in also and work with our team. So through all of, let's say our team of 800 employees across the board, not just our immediate training and staff development team, although we certainly put them in there as well, and have heard wonderful, raving, positive, one might say, feedback regarding Coach Iris and our other training and staff development professionals who partner with us. I'm being real intentional. We do a training plan each year where we'll have a forecast meeting to try to identify what the needs are and be really intentional about growing the potential that our staff have. So hopefully that gives our listening audience some idea as to how to be planful and actually building into grants when they can, funding, indirect funding that also includes professional development. And I know I try to be intentional. Our team and the agency with regards to professional development goals when we're doing our evaluations to try to ask staff, where do you want to be? And
Yeah.
consistent with what you're saying, Dr. Loretta, from us knowing what their goals are, then helping them to be able to, and helping us be able to identify and support developing in areas that support what our staff sees as their vision moving forward in their careers to help keep them engaged and motivated as well. How about yourself, Coach Iris? Anything you'd add?
Yes, I will, because I am a coach and I work with many corporations, Fortune 100, 500 companies. One of the things that they do to support their bench strength is coaching. They hire coaches for individual one-on-one coaching as well as group coaching. And I want to let you all know, you may know this now, in the coaching world, a lot of the coaching companies are incorporating AI. So if you want to save a little money, and I may be shooting myself in the foot with this, but if you want to save a little money, some companies, you could do a strictly AI coaching platform, right? So that's, you can do either one-on-one coaching plus the AI coaching, or you could do either or. So that's just some information for you all that's happening in the coaching world.
That's wonderful. Good to know. And I know that the Center for Creative Leadership, I've been partnering with them for a zillion years in providing coaching. Rising Stars is another one that works with corporate leaders. I've had opportunity to work with them for the last, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years. And I think you're just spot on, Coach Iris, with regards to corporations, nonprofits, public entities really leveraging coaching. And then speaking of the AI, what's interesting is when I first started working with Voice America, maybe, I don't know, it's been a long time, 10, 12 years or so, we've had this particular podcast. Our initial thoughts with regards to our doing Leadership Matters was to do the podcast and then have them record it and have a, we were calling it a self-directed learning series. So it really wasn't intended to be an external function. It became external later, but the idea was really to have a repository of topics that staff at any time could go to on leadership topics and create their own learning plan using the various topics that were in our directory. So I also embraced the thought with regards to using technology and leveraging the availability of it for helping to develop bench strength within organizations and different ways of having it accessible. If you don't have a lot of budget for live training, there's a lot of different things one might find that's just static in the universe, one might say. Good. So before we dive into our actual topic for today with regards to essential leadership and bench strength development during turbulent times, Coach Iris, can we have you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you again for having me, and would love to share about myself. My background is in engineering. I have an electrical engineering degree. Most of my career, I did project management, client management. I have over 20 years of training and facilitation experience, culture building, and of course, coaching. As you said earlier, Dr. White, I am the owner, operator, lead coach of DMP Coaching, which stands for Discovering the Missing Pieces Coaching, LLC. Early in my career, I worked for a chemical company as an electrical engineering project management, where I designed control systems, power systems, as well as managed the capital projects to install those designs or upgrade the plant systems. So yes, I did wear a hard hat and safety shoes. Okay. It was not a good look, but I had to wear them. I was also a trainer and for the non-salary employees as well. Later, I began working for a business-to-business customer loyalty consulting firm where I was the director of service improvement and I was the client liaison for over 40 customer experience clients. And I helped them develop best practices and strategies to improve their net promoter scores. I also managed over 20 plus remote employees, as well as trained the employees and our clients' employees on our proprietary software. So I'm an ordained minister of 25 years. I have my master in divinity from Duke University. And after I ended the consulting firm stint, I transitioned into personal and executive coaching, where I coach emerging leaders to senior executives across the public sector, private sector, faith-based, academic, and nonprofit. So that is me.
That is wonderful. Lots and lots and lots of
Yes.
experience, and knowledge, and skills that you bring. And we're just so excited to have you here, willing to share your wisdom with us.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely.
Yes. And Dr.
Okay,
Loretta.
so yeah, I'm trying to check our time as well, but we want to start off, Coach Iris, with the issue of accountability. So we hear some supervisors and managers are responsible for holding their staff accountable. What does holding someone responsible and accountable mean to you?
Well, I think in order to hold someone responsible and accountable, we have to take a step back to having a North Star and setting clear expectations. So it's hard to hold someone accountable when they don't know what the expectations are or the common goal that they are working towards. So that North Star, if you allow everyone on your team to have input, they can see themselves in that goal, right? Whether it's the mission, vision, or values, then you can hold them accountable because you can say, well, you said this is who we are, including you, right?
Mhm.
And how you're going to show up. Also, setting expectations. I work with leaders all the time on setting what is expected and when do you need it, and what time, what date, and then doing check-ins and follow-ups as well. So having that North Star and setting expectations, you have to have that in line before you can hold anybody accountable.
Great, thank you so much. Are we near our comma moment?
Yeah, well, it looks
Oh, no,
like we
okay.
can go on and move into
Okay.
our commercial break. And so what we'll do is take that short break and look forward to returning and hearing more from Coach Iris on ways that we might go about holding our staff accountable. I love the idea of first we got to take that step back and make sure we've done our
Yes.
part with regards to the
Right.
North Star and setting clear expectations. And we'll talk more about bench strength and coaching and mentoring and employee engagement as we go through today's conversation. So please stay with us and we'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors. Delighted to be here today with my co-host, Dr. Loretta Howard. I'm Dr. Sheryl White, and we have Coach Iris Savage Dargan helping us have this conversation as we continue from last week's discussion on essential leadership and bench strength development during turbulent times. Dr. Loretta, I'm going to toss it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Dr. White. Coach Iris, you talked about how with accountability, there has to be where the leadership literally has to step back, that North Star moment, and then make sure that they've done what they're supposed to do. So in the time we're living in right now, things are turbulent. There's so much uncertainty that people are experiencing. How do you still effectively hold people accountable during those turbulent times, even if you as a leader, maybe you're uncertain too?
Yes, this is happening everywhere. I mean, and it's been this way in organizations. I would say for the past 2 years, I've been coaching people on how do you effectively manage when change is happening, or when, as a manager or as a leader, your hands are tied, right? So there's a lot of information coming from the top that you can't share with your downline. And so as a leader, you're a little uncomfortable with that. You don't know, what you can and what you cannot say, but yet you see your team kind of reeling with all the uncertainties. So the first thing I tell my clients is be transparent. Be transparent to the point in which you can. Tell them what you do know. And what that does, it establishes that bridge of trust, or if the trust is already there, it solidifies it, because then that says we are in this together. And be transparent about how you're feeling about the uncertainty. And when that trust is built, I think at that point, you can then hold them accountable. Because again, we're all in this together. This is our North Star. And as the leader, you're taking time to understand how your team is handling the challenges. It's one thing to hold somebody accountable, but if you don't know what they're working with on any given day, mentally, emotionally, at home, all the things that we bring to work, because we don't just check ourselves at work, taking time to understand what they're handling, and then helping them say, okay, so this is where you are, right? This is the capacity you have. Now, this is what's needed to be done. How can we get this done? And coaching them toward that. And so it's not a, you better do this, or we have to get this done. It's a let's journey through this rocky time together.
So clicking on that once or twice is kind of double clicking. And, with all the noise that can be surrounding the environment during times of uncertainty, what might a leader do to help employees kind of maybe drown out the noise or put the noise aside, so that they really can focus? So we got all this noise and there's this competing stuff, one might say, for someone's attention. How do we help them stay focused?
Well, so what typically happens in situations like this is your team or your employees, the feeling oftentimes is that they don't have a choice, that they're locked into whatever this situation has been presented to them, right? And so as the leader, as the manager, really coaching them around choice, coaching them around, you can only control what you can control, and having them verbalize that. What can you control? And then developing a plan on how to do that, those things you can control, and do that well. So that's how when that noise comes, we get so fixated on the noise, but as a leader, as a coach, is moving them past the noise and reframing what's going on right now, maybe helping them step outside of the noise and saying, okay, the noise is here, but I still have some control over here.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yep. Oh, good. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm just enjoying that so much. Thank you for the cues, Dr. Sheryl. We're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about bench strength. So, what is your definition of bench strength, Coach Iris?
When I think about bench strength, several things. Number one, having a pipeline of leaders, right? You have to be establishing that leadership pipeline and identifying those people that you can train and develop into leaders. And with that comes also succession planning. You would be surprised at the number of people that I coach that do not succession plan, because we get so caught up in the day-to-day, project by project, task by task world that we live in, that we forget that one day we may not be in this role, right?
Mhm.
And we need to identify someone that can come along and take our role so that we can continue to move up. And then having that talent readiness, making sure that employees have the skills, they have the experience, that we as leaders are creating development opportunities for them to grow. We are developing opportunities for them to have visibility, because if they don't have visibility and you say, oh, I think Iris can do this job, as part of my bench, but you've given them no visibility, then who is Iris and what has she done? Right. And then the other thing is capacity. Does the organization have the bandwidth to absorb any new challenges, changes without losing more momentum? So I say talent readiness, capacity, succession planning, and having that leadership pipeline.
Mhm. And this may go without, one might say without speaking, but really being able to put words to, for our listening audience, just the why behind this, why it's been important to have and develop, especially during turbulent times.
Mhm.
Why don't we just put that aside during turbulent times and say, let's just focus on the crisis at hand or the uncertainty that we're wading through?
Right, right. The why is because you want to avoid burnout.
Mhm.
Especially let me back up. I work with a lot of managers, leaders that are in very high-paced environments, right? And so they're already on the verge of burning out. And then you add these crises and challenges and turbulent times. And so then what do, right? So they're already headed toward burnout. So the why is you want to maintain the mental, physical, emotional health of your people, because not one person can do it. And let me say this too. Something just popped in my head. The other thing that I work a lot on with my leaders is transitioning their mindset from an individual contributor to a leader,
Mhm.
to a manager, to a coach. In other words, they have a bench and they're not using it. The bench is right there, their team, and they're doing everything. They're not delegating. So actually, it is good to have a bench so you don't burn yourself out. But if you don't know how to delegate, you're going to do that anyway. Also, so you don't have a decline in your performance for your team. Of course, a manager is only as good as their team, right? So if your team's performance is declining, then yours is too. And then you don't want people to quit and stay.
Right.
You ever seen somebody quit and
Oh,
stay?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yes,
So
indeed.
that's why bench strength is important, because if those people are no longer want to be in the role, then you have others that can take their responsibilities. And then, to have some continuity of leadership and performance. Is there somebody ready to step up? Are they able to step up? So you need these people in the queue, right? Ready and able to step up so that there's that continuity. There's no break in how well your team is performing.
Mhm, mhm. Love that. And I also love that idea of how important bench strength is to prevent burnout. Because sometimes there are times people don't take the breaks they need to take because there's no backup in place. No one who can step in their absence. And it just becomes so important for us as leaders to think about, how do we ensure that we're able to give people reasonable downtime, reasonable breaks, and when they are off on vacation, they can truly be on vacation and come back refreshed. But while they're gone, the productivity can stay where it needs to stay. So, thank you for all of your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Um, Something you said about the leaders being able to delegate. And one thing I have realized being around people, and I've been guilty of it myself, is like, okay, they aren't getting it done right. Let me just go on and get this done because it's taking them too long or whatever. So other than maybe delegation, what are some other ways that a leader could go about to develop that bench strength in other people?
Be very intentional about succession planning. And I would say, looking at your one-on-ones and how are you utilizing your one-on-ones with your team. Oftentimes, I see that one-on-ones are being used for report outs on tasks, stand-up meetings, that sort of thing. And one-on-ones are supposed to be used for growth and development. It's not that you can't talk about tasks and projects in those teams, but there should be some conversation around growth and development. Where do you see yourself? What can I do to help drive your career? Or even here's a thought: letting your team know what driving their career is and what your philosophy is as a leader. A leader's philosophy either is going to be, I will drive your career, or two, I expect you to drive your career, or there's a combination of the both. Sometimes leaders don't even let their team know what that looks like, driving their career. So in order to succession plan, you have to let them know what the expectation is around, career development, driving their career, and then also actively stretching people. There are going to be some people on your team that just absolutely does not want to do anything except for what they do every day. And you see it and you know that they can do more, right? And just coaching them to the point where they know that they can do more. Sometimes it's just having someone else having the confidence in you that you can do more. So stretching those people that need to be stretched.
Mhm. Wonderful. Love all of that. We are going to take another short break, and when we return, we'll continue this conversation with Coach Iris on coaching and mentoring and employee engagement, retention. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters with the People Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, talking today about essential leadership and bench strength development during turbulent times. I'll go on and take that second audience question. And let's see, it is, how can an organization go about providing substantial training and professional development opportunities for staff when they don't have a significant training and professional development budget? Well, we might have touched a little bit on that, but Dr. Loretta and Coach Iris, anything you want to add or even underscore what you might have mentioned earlier that might address that question?
One thing that I would add is like some peer-to-peer learning. Coach Iris had talked about how some people, they are just satisfied with their job, but they may have so much experience. They don't want to manage people. They don't want a leadership role because they see what leaders do and they don't want that responsibility. But they might be able to help with some peer-to-peer training on some things, as well as cross-functional. I'm a firm believer in if you can get people to have cross-functional roles. So if one person leaves or is on vacation, you still have someone who can actually do the job. And then I know there are some courses that are not very expensive, like I think it's Course RA, that's one of them, LinkedIn Learning. There are some tools out there, and I think it's a matter of researching and looking for it and finding out what's actually out there to help people when you don't have a large budget, because you may not.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Coach Iris, your thoughts?
Yes, I was actually going to say the same thing about the peer-to-peer learning. And really, as a manager or leader, knowing what the strengths and gifts are of your team so that you can leverage those. Oftentimes, they show up to work and they can do far more than what you just see in that role. And then also intentionally pairing them with someone that's more experienced. They can learn a lot that way as well.
Mm-hmm. Love both of those. When we do our forecast meeting, one of the things we also ask for is if there are topics that people internally have expertise in that they wouldn't mind putting a training together for and can deliver. So even leveraging the talent of internal staff, I love leveraging that staff for mentoring, but also leveraging those staff members who might be willing to actually put together a workshop and module. Then, of course, podcasts such as ours, which is downloaded for free. There's a ton of podcasts that are out there available, and not to mention other platforms. One might find that they could. I would certainly encourage persons who are leading to preview, some of those things that are available electronically, be it in, from YouTube or TED Talk or something else, but to preview and see what's out there in the public domain that they might be able to leverage for staff development is another way. And then some of the conferences, having one person go and then come back and share that information with others is maybe another way of maximizing training and staff development dollars. So may not be able to send to everyone, but who might you send that can come back and share. So with that, Dr. Loretta, I'm going to toss it back over for you
Okay.
to maybe shifting and talking more about coaching in the workplace and how Coach Iris might give us some tips with regards to that topic.
Absolutely. And I cannot wait to hear what you would share with us, Coach Iris. So actually, from your perspective, how do you define coaching in the workplace?
So let me start by saying what coaching is not. It is
Okay.
not therapy and it is not consulting.
Mhm.
So coaching in the workplace, it really is having a thought partner in being able to navigate any type of experiences, situations that you may have. It's also someone that can hold you accountable. Typically in an engagement with a coach, you may do a 360 feedback survey to identify your areas of growth, right? Also see your areas of strengths and how we can shore those up as well. Then we'll develop goals around those areas of growth or opportunities. And then the space is your space. It's a confidential space, right? I don't share anything with the company that has engaged me to coach the coachee. And again, bringing in those real life situations, role playing is another thing that we do. And using a guided reflection, kind of ping ponging back and forth and helping the client reframe some things. I call it also peeling the onion. Peeling the onion or shifting their perspective, taking off these glasses and putting on a different pair, asking powerful questions, and again, someone to hold you accountable.
Mhm. So, yeah, when we're thinking about managers and their role as relates to coaching employees, what skills do managers need to have so that they can effectively step into that role of being a coach also to employees?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. Very good question. So managers, they have to know the difference between managing and coaching, cooperation and collaboration. Okay. Managers tend to tell employees what to do versus coaches ask their employees how it should be done. So telling is more of that cooperation. Here's a project. I want it done by this date. X date, of course, set the expectation. This is how I want it done, so on and so forth. Go into the refrigerator and pick up the red cup on the left-hand side on the second shelf. That oftentimes managers are like that. Whereas when you coach, you ask the question, how would you open the refrigerator door? On what shelf do you think I would have put the milk? So you are collaborating with them, right? On developing a solution. That's one skill set. The other is having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset.
Yeah.
Helping their employees see the opportunities in the challenges versus fixating on the challenge. Now, first of all, the manager has to have that skill themselves, right?
Mhm.
So that they don't get all bent out of shape when someone does something, they make a mistake. They create a culture where people can fail forward. That's having a growth mindset, and then helping their employees or their team members be able to identify those opportunities in the challenge. First, let's name the challenge. What is the challenge? And then, okay, so then what does this challenge present? What opportunities does this challenge present? And then finally, and not finally, but I'll just cut it off here, is of course they got to have emotional intelligence. In order for a manager to coach well, they have to have emotional intelligence, and that's being self-aware of their own emotions and knowing how to regulate their emotions. Right. So you've been in meetings before where things get a little hot and
Yeah.
some people, instead of de-escalating the situation, they escalate the situation. Being empathetic to their team during these challenging times and their emotions. What emotions will your team bring in every day? So having on your glasses, I call it, of empathy versus those glasses of we got to get it done, we got to get done, we got to get it done. you know. And then being able to coach their team through any emotions that they're experiencing, any decisions that's out of their control, and also being able to navigate difficult conversations, because sometimes during turbulent times as a manager and all the rifts that's going on, you have to have a difficult conversation. And my husband says all the time, he says, I haven't had to fire many people, but those that I've had to fire or let go, the session ended with a hug. The conversation ended with a hug. and we remain friends. So that's being able to manage a difficult conversation. So emotional intelligence, having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, knowing the difference between managing and coaching, cooperation and collaboration. I would say those are some key skills that managers need to be able to coach effectively.
Love it. Thank you.
With that said, and you touched on actually what my next question was going to be about managers' coaching processes. Does it need to change during times of uncertainty or when, they're in crisis mode right now because so many organizations with funding issues, things that are up in the air, they're not sure what's going to happen. So, do they actually need to change how they do anything, or would you just say they would continue to do, the things that you mentioned?
I would say to do the things I mentioned, but also increase that emotional intelligence. I would add to that active listening, being able to hear what their employees or their team, what they're saying or not saying, right? And just allowing space for all of that. Just allowing space for the changes, allowing space for the emotions, being able to hold space in those one-on-ones with their employee when they are, feeling very down or when they're feeling very uncertain. And then also, I would say, as a manager, the thing that you need to increase is your own self-care. Because if you come to work and you are stressed out and worried and you haven't processed all that's going on yourself, it's going to be very difficult for you to do that with your employees. So the emotional intelligence, the self-care, active listening, those are the things that I would increase during these times.
Thank you so much.
And Coach Iris, when might an organization or a leader consider bringing in an external coach to provide leadership development services?
I would say when the leader, their capacity is very limited, right? And they may have a very large team, so there's not enough of that person to go around to grow and develop their team. Also, when you've identified high potential employees for leadership and you want to retain them by investing in them, that when you hire a coach or any type of training and development that your people can go to, it says, I value you and I want to invest in you. And then also, a 360 feedback may reveal areas of growth or team concerns. And so when you have those type of assessments or employee engagement surveys that go out, it may be screaming, they need coaching, they need coaching. So don't ignore that, okay? And then during times of change management, when those type of things are taking place, a coach would really support your leaders in how to manage their teams during turbulent times, but even during, layoffs or restructurings, any type of change management that's going on, rebranding, organizations go through a lot of change management. So that's when I would think, some ways, sometimes when you would hire a coach.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, we're going to take another short break, and when we return, we'll look forward to maybe there might be a few other thoughts, had some thoughts when I asked you about group coaching, but also more on employee engagement and retention. I think we're asking all of our guests to share with us their thoughts with regards to their hopes and joys. So please stay with us. And Coach Loretta and I'll be right back with more with Coach Iris. Did I say Coach or Dr. Loretta?
That's okay.
Dr. Loretta will be right back with Coach Iris on Leadership Matters with the Doctor's Peoples, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters today, talking about essential leadership and bench strength development during turbulent times with my fabulous co-host, Dr. Loretta Howard. And also with us today is Coach Iris Savage Dargan. And I am going to maybe start us off with Coach Iris talking a little bit about group coaching. What does that process look like? And when might that be helpful for an organization?
Okay, so group coaching would be helpful when there's team synergy needed. Okay, so maybe you want to reestablish your mission, vision, and values, or work agreements are needed, or even establish psychological safety among your team. And what that looks like in a group coaching session, there may be some pre-work around the topic or the common goal that the group would have. Of course, you come in, ground rules and agreements are established, and then depending on the size of the group, everyone would get the opportunity to speak on the topic. And then how you engage the rest of the group is by identifying either opportunities, identifying challenges, and the thing that I love most about group coaching is strength spotting. So as each person is speaking, the rest of the group is engaging on spotting the strengths of that particular person. So
Great.
Wow, okay. So, Coach Iris, in all your experience of coaching and leadership, how do you know when the coaching has really been effective? It's accomplished what you needed.
Yeah, that's a great question. Uh, Coaches need to be coachable. And the thing that I know that coaching is effective when the coaches come back and say, hey, this happened and I used this strategy. So they're actually using the strategies that they learned, the session before. And then when they're more confident, and they're using their what I call interrupters of either negative thoughts, negative behavior. They're able to interrupt their responses. They're responding and not reacting in certain situations. They're stretching themselves. Their teams are more in sync, and their teams are happy. Their teams are happy. So that's how I know if coaching is working.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes. And then, Coach Iris, one of the things you shared was that coaching is another way for employees to know that they're valued, and that can really support engagement and retention. Anything else you might share that a leader might do during times of uncertainty to engage and retain employees?
You use the word value. So that would be my number one thing, is to understand what their values are in these type of times. What is important to each one of your team members during this moment? It may be a salary, it may be security, it may be flexibility, and the threat of those things going away. So understanding what their values are, and then coaching them around controlling what they can control, so that their values can be met, right? So there's some synergy between their responsibility at work and their personal values. And also coaching them on how to manage their responsibilities, right? So sometimes when you're in turbulent times, you're like, oh, I got all this work to do, but I just don't know how to get it all done. And so helping them walk through that as well. Again, I talked about choices, helping them understand that they have choices and they are not stuck, that this situation is not the end all be all for them. And then understanding their bandwidth, asking employees to be honest about their bandwidth and the things that they can get done. And what that does, it helps them feel seen. And when you see an employee that's an engaged employee, and you can retain that employee, of course, rewards, recognition, anything you can do to boost morale and things like that. So that is how I would, engage the employees and retain employees. But it does start with understanding their values.
Thank you.
Great. So the last 2 months, we have been asking all of our leaders who have come on the show two questions that we want to know from you. One of them is, what do you hope for? And the other one is, what brings you joy? So let's start with, what do you hope for, Coach Iris?
Well, I recently moved from San Diego, California to Houston, Texas. I moved back to Houston, Texas, and I moved into my home on last Wednesday. So
Oh,
my
wow.
hope is that I can unpack my house over the next few weeks and that, oh my God, that, all these boxes are gone. So what brings me joy? Organization brings me joy. I'm
Mhm.
telling you, organization brings me joy. So if I can get these boxes unpacked, then I will be happy and my hope will be satisfied.
Okay, I love it. I love it. Thank
Yes.
you.
I do too.
Mhm.
Any final thoughts, Coach Iris? Any final thoughts?
I just, being a manager is a very important role. And it's not just about task and completing projects. I just want managers, leaders to understand that if you take care of your people, then everything else will be taken care of. So those are my final thoughts.
Love it. Thank you so much. And how about yourself, Dr. Loretta? Any final
Uh,
thoughts?
I have just absolutely enjoyed this and meeting you, Coach Iris. You have truly
Likewise.
shared some knowledge nuggets with us that we can carry. And as I listened to you, it made me reflect on, am I doing all the things that I need to do? Am I helping people to develop and grow to their full potential? So you've given me some homework assignments because it did give me self-reflection on some of those. And you might have noticed I was jotting it down. It's like, oh yeah, it's good, good point. Share
Yes.
that knowledge. So I appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes. And Coach Iris, how would our listening audience get in touch with you or learn more about your offerings?
You can go to my website, and that's D as in David, M as in Mary, P as in Paul, coaching.com, or you can email me at iris@dmpcoaching.com.
Wonderful. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. And thank you so much to our listening audience today. We appreciate your tuning in, and we invite you to share with us topics you may be interested in. Please send them to Leadership Matters questions at Innovisions. That's INNOBISIONS.org. Please join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. or download our podcast at your convenience. And until next time, keep on keeping on for the greater, informing leaders, inspiring.